Last week, I spoke to the women, and we looked at Paul's word in Ephesians to the women to submit to their husbands as to Christ. And we talked about that in our culture, Paul's words seem kind of out of place because in our culture, submit is a dirty word. But in the Scripture, submit is not a dirty word. Submission characterizes the relationship amongst Christians for one another. And when a wife submits to meeting her husband's deepest needs, she fulfills her calling as a wife, and she opens up the door for God to work in tremendously wonderful ways in the life of her family. And so that's what we talked about last week. This week we're wrapping up this series that we've been on for the last few weeks about marriage. And this week I want to speak to the men. And I want to begin back in Ephesians once again. Ephesians chapter 5, beginning in verse 25. And it says this: Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church, without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In this same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. After all, no one ever hated his own body, but he feeds and cares for it, just as Christ does the church, for we are members of his body. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. This is a profound mystery, but I am talking about Christ and the church. However, each one of you also must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. Listen, when I read these words right here, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church, there should have been a gasp go up from the men in this room when we realize what it is that Christ is calling us to do. Christ is calling us to love our wives just as Christ loved the church. Let that sink in. Christ is calling you to love your wife just as Christ loved the church. I want to give you a picture of that, just so you can kind of let that sink in. Here's a picture right here that you can put in your mind. I just want you to visualize this. This is how Christ loved the church. This is it. You all know what it means to be the man? This is it. You all know what it means to be the head? This is it. You all know what it means to be the leader in your home? This is it. Right here. You are called to love your wife as Christ loved the church. And this is the picture. This is the picture that Christ gives you for how you're called to love your wife. Philippians chapter 2. Paul's speaking to them, but he could be speaking to husbands. Your attitude should be the same as that of Christ Jesus, who being in very nature God did not consider equality with God something to be grasped, but made himself nothing, taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness, and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient to death, even death on the cross. This is our attitude. Our attitude should be the same as that of Christ, who humbled himself even to the cross. To love your wife as Christ loved the church means to lay down your life. It means to lay down your privileges. It means to lay down your rights to meet your wife's deepest needs. This is why there ought to be a gasp when we read that scripture. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. This is your calling. This is what it means to lead in your home. See, we're confused in our culture because we equate leadership with privilege. It's what's wrong with our Congress. It's what's wrong with some of our political leaders at times. We equate leadership with privilege rather than service. And they're different. And that's why we get so excited when we read that the wives should submit to their husbands and husbands lead their wives. We get all excited because we don't understand what Jesus is talking about. This is what Jesus is speaking about right here. This is what it means to love your wife, to lay down your life for her. Jesus tried to explain this to his disciples in Mark chapter 10. In Mark chapter 10, James and John come to Jesus and have a request. Beginning in verse 35, it says this. Then James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to him. Teacher, they said, we want you to do for us whatever we ask, which is kind of funny. And Jesus says, what do you want me to do for you? They replied, let one of us sit at your right and the other at your left in glory. James and John say to Jesus, you know what, Jesus, we want to sit at your right and left. We want to be leaders with you. We want to be your right and left-hand man. We want to sit with you when you come into your kingdom, when you have authority and power, and you come to that place. We want to be right at your right hand and right at your left hand. They wanted privilege. They wanted to sit at the nice place at the table. But listen to what Jesus says. You don't know what you're asking, Jesus said. Can you drink the cup I drink? Or be baptized with the baptism I am being baptized with? Jesus said, you don't know what you're asking because you're thinking like the world. And the world says that leadership and authority is about privilege, and Jesus knew that wasn't it. In fact, when Jesus was going to be glorified, Jesus' glorification was on the cross. When he was lifted up, that was the cup that he was going to drink. That was the baptism he was going to be baptized with. When he was lifted up on the cross, that was the moment that Jesus would be glorified, when all the world would see the extent of God's love for us. And that moment, that was Jesus' glory, when he laid down his life for us. And Jesus says to James and John, you don't know what you're asking to be at my right hand and my left hand because you're confused. You think the world's idea of leadership and authority and power, and Jesus said, that's not it. Jesus says, my authority and power is going to be in laying down my life for those I love. Jesus said, can you drink the cup I drink, be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with? We can, they answered. Jesus said to them, you will drink the cup I drink, be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with. But to sit at my right or left is not for me to grant. These places belong to those for whom they have been prepared. When the 10 heard about this, they became indignant with James and John. Jesus said to James and John, you will indeed suffer as I've suffered. They don't get it yet because they've not seen it. But Jesus says, you asked to drink the cup I drink, be baptized with the cup of baptism which I'm being baptized with. He says, you will indeed suffer and lay down your life for the service of others. Now, the other 10 hearing this, they get all upset and mad too because they still think like the world thinks. And so Jesus responds to them. Jesus called them together and said, you know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. Jesus redefines leadership. Jesus redefines headship. Jesus says to his disciples, you want to be first? You lay down your life. You want to be great? You give your life away in service to others. And husbands, this is your call. This is your call. Love your wives as Christ loved the church. Lay down your life to meet her deepest needs. That's what godly leadership looks like. There it is, to lay down your life for her. Now, if you're going to do that, if you're going to love your life well, love your wife well, you have to recognize that men and women are different. Right? I mean, if you get this, if you say, all right, Jeff, all right, okay, I mean, I hear the Bible saying that love your wife as Christ loved the church. Okay, I've got to sacrifice to meet my wife's deepest needs. That's my call in life. That's my ministry in life, to meet my wife's deepest needs. All right, if you're going to do that, you have to understand that men and women are different. Think about this. I'm amazed at what men can do when they put their minds to it. I'm amazed at what men can learn when they're passionate about something. We got any deer hunters out there? I mean, let's just think about deer hunting for a second. I mean, I talk about fishing, but I like to fish, so we'll talk about deer hunting. All right? Yeah, look at what, I mean, when those guys who are passionate about deer hunting, it's amazing how they will apply themselves to that. I mean, they will read magazines about it. They watch videos about a doe's estrus cycle or whatever. I mean, they study up on, they talk to their friends about it. It's a constant topic of conversation about what deer are doing. They know their antler growth rates. They know the age of the deer by the size of their gonads. I mean, all these sorts of, they have really studied all these things. They're really passionate about them. They can tell you all about the deer and the different times of year, what the deer are eating, and all those kinds of things right there. I mean, they're really passionate about it. And then they go out and they buy a $45,000 four-wheel drive truck. They buy a $10,000 four-wheeler, a $2,000 gun. They spend thousands of dollars on camouflage and ammunition and the deer lease and all the other things that go along with that. Then they get up at 3 o'clock in the morning when it's freezing cold outside to go sit in a deer stand in a tree where they're going to freeze their heinies off all day long. They pour dopey on themselves so they'll blend in with the environment. I mean, isn't it amazing what a man can do when he applies himself to a situation? Right? Now, what would happen if men took just a small amount of that passion that we apply to some of these other areas of life and we applied them to understanding our wives? Now listen, women in one sense will always remain a mystery to us men. That's a part of the fun, all right? That's what keeps it interesting. But listen, we can understand a lot, and we can grow in our understanding when we apply ourselves and understand that our call is to love them well. And to love them well, we have to understand that they are different from us. All right? So guys, I'm going to give you a head start today. I'm going to tell you 3 things that women say, many women say, are ways in which they receive love. If you're going to love them well, here are 3. I'll give you a jump start on getting your loving well down, okay? And the first one is this. Many women say they feel loved and cherished when they experience non-sexual affection. All right, here's a survey. I took a survey, and listen to what some of the women said on my survey responses. The question I asked them was, if I could choose one thing that my spouse could do to make me feel more loved, it would be. Listen to some of the responses. Surprise me with little gifts. More affection. Call me to see how my day is. A simple back rub without me asking. A surprise every once in a while. Say I love you. More affection outside the bedroom. The next one. Tell me he loves me. Show me he loves me. Write me more love letters. Just be more affectionate. Say I love you more often. Be more affectionate. Be more affectionate non-sexually. That woman's being really, really clear here. All right? Now, I mean, those are just a few examples of what women wrote in our marriage survey there. And what they're saying over and over is, I feel loved when my husband gives me non-sexual affection, which includes hugs, holding your hand, putting your arm around you, snuggling up on the couch to watch a movie, saying I love you, writing a note, all those kinds of things. Many women say that's how they experience love, is doing those little things right there. My wife loves it. I mean, that's one of my wife's love languages. If she's staying there, and I walk up behind her and just put my arms around her waist and just give her a little hug like that. And the key is to let her go, and not expect anything else. Just to give her a little hug and to let her go and walk away, just to let her know that's how she receives love. All right, and so it's important that we do those kinds of things. I was talking to a guy one time, and I was trying to explain this to him. And his wife was sitting right there, and she was saying, you know what, I just wish he would hold my hand. I wish he would put his arm around me. That's how I feel loved. And I said to the guy, why don't you do that? He said, well, it just doesn't do anything for me. He's not getting it. My response to him was, I don't care. I don't care that it's not doing anything for you. I mean, do you understand, in a marriage relationship, you understand how your spouse feels loved, and you're giving your life away to meet their deepest needs. That would be different if he'd been traumatized as a youth or something, and he couldn't stand to touch somebody. That's a different issue. It just didn't do anything for him. And yet a lot of men are living off that theory right there. It really doesn't do anything for me, so I'm not going to do it for you. That's the status of a lot of broken relationships. And in good, healthy relationships, a man seeks to understand how his wife feels love and to love her in that way. And for many women, non-sexual affection is one of those important ways that they experience love. The second one is this, conversation. Many women say they feel loved when their spouse simply takes the time to talk with them. Listen to some of my responses right here. Same question. Here's some different responses. Listen to me. To talk more. engage, listen a little better communication about day-to-day things, pay more attention when I am talking to him and not be so critical. More one-on-one time, which is talking about this conversation. Be interested in my interest. Listen to me. Listen to problems. Pay attention to me when I am talking. Specifically has to do with the television set for many men that takes away there. Act like what I am talking about is interesting. Guys, you hear that? Do you hear what some of our women are saying? I just want you to act like you care about what I'm saying. All right, that's important. Carry on a conversation with me. We saw it again and again in our marriage survey. Women simply said, I wish you would talk with me. Now, here's where guys get a little confused. Many men think that you have a conversation to get to a point. And for many women, the point of the conversation is conversation. And to many men, that feels pointless. And so guys are confused. And so we say things like, what's the point? What do you want me to do? Those kinds of things. I mean, we just want to get to the point. But for many women, the point of the conversation is just conversation. Now, guys, that's important and critical that you get that. You're going to be frustrated all your life when talking with your wife many times. Let me put it this way. Think about it another way. Susan and I used to play Monopoly with a group of friends. And you know what? I mean, when you play Monopoly, the purpose of Monopoly is to win, right? It's to get the most stuff. And anybody who plays Monopoly understands, I thought, what the point of the game is. Well, we would have friends that would come over, especially in college and before we had kids. They'd come over, we'd play Monopoly. And the next thing you know, the women would start cooperating. You can't cooperate in Monopoly. It's against the rules. And I would get so frustrated because they would start cooperating and sharing. Like, no, there's no sharing. It's Monopoly. It's totally against Monopoly rules. You don't get to share. And I would get so frustrated. We would play and I'd get frustrated and everybody'd go away and I'd be blowing up and getting all excited because they weren't trying to win. They were just sharing. And then Susan told me one day, it was a revelation. She said, Jeff, we don't care whether we win or not. We just wanted to come and kind of hang out together. Didn't seem like a good idea to me, but when I understood, listen, we had different purposes for this. I thought we were all playing to win. They were just playing just to hang out, just to share and to have fun together. Now, once I understood that, we stopped playing Monopoly because there's no reason. I wish I was kidding. But at least I understood what was going on. So guys, that's critical for many women to simply say, the point of the conversation is not to get to a point or to solve some problem. It's just that as they're talking, they feel loved. And that's what happens. And one of the ways that they receive love is just when you engage in a conversation with them and rather try to see how quickly it can get over, you ask questions. You sound interested. You draw her out. And you share with her what's going on in your life. When that conversation is going on, many women simply say that's one of the ways in which they receive love. And for many men, that takes practice. It takes thought and intention sometimes, but we can do that. Simply provide time during your week just to sit down where the TV's not on, because we know men can't do two things at one time, where you just provide some time during the week so that you can just sit down and encourage your wife just to share what's going on in her life, not trying to solve her problems, but just to enjoy the conversation with your wife, because that's how many of them feel loved. All right, the third one is this. First one is non-sexual affection. The second one is conversation. The third one is appreciation. Many women say they feel loved when they're being appreciated. Verbally or gifts or otherwise. Here's what they said. More appreciation. Respect the fact that I'm just as important as he is, even if I don't earn as much. Not complain so much. Simply means appreciate. Appreciate me more. Recognize all that I do. Appreciate what I contribute to our household. More appreciation. Woman after woman said, I wish my husband would appreciate me. And that's how that would make them feel more loved. Listen, I admit I don't share equally in the housework in my home. But when I do something at my house, if Susan's out with the girls to a soccer game and I load the dishwasher, I don't ask for much, but when she comes home, I'll sit over in my chair and kind of play it cool for a few minutes to see if she noticed that while she was gone, I put some dishes in the dishwasher. I don't want much other than her just to realize she's got the best husband in the world. And so we sometimes get arguing because I do that, and then she comes in, doesn't recognize that, and I get angry. because she didn't recognize what I did. Susan finds that funny, that I expect her to say thank you if I put dishes in the dishwasher. Because rarely do I ever get up one morning and take a shower and pull out my underwear and go, Susan, I've got clean underwear. This is incredible. Thank you. I'm so blessed to be married to such a woman. Rarely do I go into the kitchen, pull open the drawer, and take out a fork and go, Susan, there's clean forks in here. It's magical. I put them in the sink dirty, and they end up over here clean. All the time. There's just always forks in there. This is wonderful. Rarely do I walk into the pantry, pull out a box of cereal, and go, Susan, you're the best wife ever. I have cereal this morning to eat. Right? Now, some of you probably do a better job than I do about some of that. But you know what? 365 days a year, many women are doing lots of things, and many of them simply say, I wish somebody would recognize what I'm doing. And they say, we feel loved when you tell us thank you. We feel loved when you tell us what difference we make in the home. We feel loved when you recognize what we contribute to the family. It's so simple. It's just a word of thank you, how blessed I am. Thank you for all that you do. Many women say they want appreciation. Now, if I had 4 things to talk about today, I would tell you they also want help. All right, but I'm not going there because I'm sticking to 3. All right? Simply feel loved when they are appreciated. You know, the best way to find out how your wife experiences love is just to ask. What could I do to make you feel more loved? What are the things that I do to make you feel loved? That's the best way to find out. You know what? It's not that hard because most of your wives don't need you to be beaten, humiliated, and crucified for them to experience love. You don't have to go there. You don't have to be crucified to meet their deepest needs. You just have to hold their hand every once in a while. You just have to plan some time to just have a conversation with them. You just have to tell them, thank you. You know what? That's what they need. And your calling is to love them as Christ loved the church and to meet their deepest needs.
Disney movies and chick flicks, they've put us in a weird position. They've distorted our reality because we forget they're actually fiction. Because in marriage, we either get better or bitter, either joy or remorses. What we're doing isn't working. Just look at the rate of divorces. So how's your marriage? I mean, come on, let's be honest. Marriage seems to some more like a prison than the paradise they were promised. We thought marriage was supposed to fulfill us and make us happy, not lonely. But the truth is, God's first priority is making you holy. You say, no one told me. It feels so odd that dating feels like a vacation while marriage feels like a job. Yet the secret of joy, if we just pull back the facade, is realizing most problems arise when we elevate our spouse to God. Without knowing it, we fulfilled Romans 1:25. By our actions, exchange the truth about God for a lie. We've exchanged God for lesser created things. It's like a husband trading his wife for a 2D image on a screen. Hoping it'll set us free, just to find on the fumes we're choking. Because if your marriage rests on anything but Jesus, it's resting in something broken. Yet guys continually sacrifice their marriage on the altar of sex and lust. I mean, if our dollars were honest, they'd stay in pleasure we trust. So men, grow up, put down the controller. How about you lead her with grace instead of trying to control her? Now, I've never been married, but I'm a product of one that was non-existent. So don't tell me I don't understand the pain. Don't tell me I don't get it. So for the singles, become friends first before you ever become lovers. Pursue Jesus as your foundation before you get under the covers. Because believe me, a strong friendship before marriage will make a good marriage after. Marriage isn't just sex. It's conversation and laughter. I mean, some spouses barely even like each other, and the marriage seems like a dead end. You might share a checkbook and a house, but are you actually friends? I mean, if marriage isn't a commitment, then what's the point of the vows we say? Till death do us part really means until the feelings go away. Like, I'll stay with him, but only until it gets tough and my love shifts. But I say, imagine if a parent took that perspective with their kids. Like, can't you see it? The minute the kid spills something on the floor, the mom's saying, forget it. I don't even love you anymore. No, it's just like marriage. To last, you need the strength from above. Because it's not the love that sustains the promise, it's the promise that sustains the love. I mean, think about it. Out of anyone who's actually had the right to leave, God had every reason in the world, yet he still came for you and me. And on the cross, he paid it all, took our shame and set us free. When he could have called down legions of angels, He chose to stay on that tree. From the cross, he looks you in the eye and says, I'm taking this for my bride. When you trust in me, you no longer have to hide. Because of me, it is finished. You've been made new. You're spotless, you're blameless. There's no sin in you. Because his death was a proposal. He wanted you no matter the cost. Where some guys propose on a knee, Jesus proposed on a cross. So read Ephesians 5, whether husband or wife. Wife, honor your husband. Husbands, give up your life. Just like Jesus gave himself up for his bride, the church. So men, lead by serving, by putting her first. So die to self, put your flesh on a life sentence, because you don't fall out of love as much as you fall out of repentance.